Hi, folks. It's Mark Merrill with Firm, Fairness in Reporting Media. We're going to be talking about the difference between white-collar or blue-collar crimes. There's a lot to get to. We hope we can give you a decent explanation and specifics and some inside information. A gentleman who does this on a regular basis here, Tom Fitton, president, owner, and founder of Judicial Watch. We'll get to his comments and insight from an interview recently. But as far as the white-collar or blue-collar type of crime, we're going to be talking a little bit about a couple of things in one segment with Mr. Fitton. The crimes of Adam Shiff, you may recall, the senator from California, among others, on the left, the deflectocrats, as we call them, who were out to get President Trump from as far back as the moment he won the 2016 election to present day. Now, we're going to use a little bit of our own, what we call humorous side, but to make a point as well here on Firm. Yours truly, Mark Merrill. Now let's see. Does what Adam Shiff did confirm him as a white-collar criminal or just a plain old dirty, stinking, rotten criminal? Well, the breakdown of the difference between white-collar crime and blue-collar crime is this, folks. Ready? Set? Make sure you get your coffee. Make sure it's not too hot. White-collar crime refers to nonviolent, financially motivated offenses committed by individuals in positions of trust. While blue-collar crime involves physical acts of property-related offenses, typically associated with working-class individuals. Coined by sociologist Edwin Sutherland back in 1939, white-collar crime encompasses nonviolent crimes committed for financial gain, often by individuals in high-status positions. The crimes include fraud, embezzlement, insider trading, and money laundering. They're characterized by deceit and a breach of trust, often occurring within professional settings. Blue-collar crime, in contrast, according to sociologist Sutherland, that involves physical acts or property-related offenses, such as theft, burglary, assault, and vandalism. Gee, how many Americans can testify to that? Even to the point of being murdered. I'd like to know one thing, folks, and we like to interject now and then as we bring points of view to you, as we're talking today on Firm about white-collar or blue-collar crimes and the difference between them. Where's Planned Parenthood fall in there? Just plain murder of babies. Do they cry when they're being aborted? Think about that one for a minute. But aside from the crimes of blue-collar violations, folks, they are typically more visible and immediate, says Mr. Sutherland, often driven by necessity or opportunity and are associated with individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. That's right. I would dare say, put a demographic on it like we like to do around here at Firm, somewhere below the age of 30. Maybe as low as 12 years old to about 17, long before the legal age to vote or drink alcohol or drive a car. They don't care. They don't care at all. You know why? Because the parents don't care. That's what it all boils down to, folks. We welcome your input on it anytime. All you have to do is remember, and we will present it again at the end of the program, every program, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Let us know what you think. It's important. Now, before we get further on, ladies and gentlemen, with the differences in blue-collar and white-collar crime, prime example, or close to it, I guess, if you will, of political hacks and documented actual criminal behaviors shown by our own stellar Judicial Watch president, as mentioned, Tom Fitton, right here. See what you, the general law-abiding public, again have to say about these despicable people who literally get away with murder of our constitutional laws. Now, here's Mr. Fitton talking about a couple of topics. First of all, about Adam Shiff and prosecutions and possible criminal things that can be pursued in court by Judicial Watch against Mr. Shiff, but also talk a little bit more about things going on in the deep state as well. This was during an interview recently with Newsmax. Here is the Newsmax host, Tom Bowling, along with Eric Bowling, with Tom Fitton.
How about Adam Shiff there? Guilty of some of the things that he was trying to nail Trump with in impeachments 1.0, 2.0, and who knows, in between the two presidencies. What's going on with Maryland man Shiff?
Well, besides his lying about Russia and abusing his office to target people he doesn't like politically, secretly subpoenaing phone records, for example, and then leaking the contents, on top of that, there's credible evidence he committed mortgage fraud. It's quite simple. When you apply for a mortgage, you're supposed to declare whether the property is your primary residence or not. And you can't have two primary residences. And he cited that he had two primary residences falsely, it looks like, according to the records, 3, 4, 5 times on various loan applications. And that's potentially a federal crime. But he can complain all he wants about being targeted and such. It's a readily apparent crime. And this is the same man who happily celebrated President Trump getting arrested not once, not twice, but 4 times based on the political lawfare targeting him. Here, it's pretty clear he was playing games, and he deserves, in the least, a serious criminal investigation, if not more.
What do you think, Tom? Again, I ask this to every guest who we talk about. Do you think we will eventually see a perp walk for some of these people? By the way, we're watching Trump come down the stairs here. He's approaching a podium, so I apologize, Tom, if I cut you off, but will we see a perp walk?
I don't know. I think there will be figures involved in the abuse of Trump who will eventually be prosecuted. Will it be sufficient? Probably not, but there'll be some who are targeted.
Yeah, I hate to do this to you, Tom. Let's take a listen to the president. I saw on the we get these little emails from the White House. This is what he's on the.
Well, the American people are done with that. And, Judicial Watch has been a big proponent of transparency for the Fed. And this is exactly why we need transparency and oversight. The catchphrase is audit the Fed. Many of us have been calling out it for years. This is just one example of an agency that has power that really is not comparable anywhere else in our government in terms of our economy, that has little checks and balances as it relates to its conduct. You ask for records. It's one of the most difficult agencies to get information from about its operations and what it's up to. And you would knock your socks off to hear the various arguments they use. For instance, they've got all the local Fed banks, right? They say those Fed banks are outside contractors, and they don't have to give us records about their communications with them. I mean, there's there's not a darn thing the agency does that to me is suitably transparent. And I'm glad the president's holding the chairman accountable. Whether he fires him or not, or the fight over the interest rates, that's irrelevant to me. It's someone being held accountable for an outrageous misuse of tax dollars.
You know, there's a question. One of the reporters said, well, you know, if this is the last thing you need to kind of make the economy whole and make it yours and more robust, why don't you just fire him? And Trump said something. He said, well, because it's a lot more difficult. That is the general consensus, that it's difficult to fire. You're not supposed to really get involved in one-sidism with the Fed. You're supposed to let them, you know, their only job is to keep prices in check, and you don't want it to become partisan. But this is a clear example. There are so many indicators that say that interest rates should be substantially lower right now, given what's going on in the economy. I don't think it would roil the markets the way a lot of people think it would if he fired Jerome Powell.
Yeah, I do think it would be less. Everything we're told about with Trump, if he does X, the world will collapse. That's never happened. And taking a reformist mentality, I think, is something would be good to do. You know, I just think back to how Powell and the Fed had no problem financing the greatest expansion of government in modern American history under Joe Biden. Trillions of dollars in spending with low interest rates. And, you know, and once that gets under control, he wants to keep the interest rates high. You know, I'm sorry, but I think it's fair to conclude maybe some of those decision makings are more political than economic.
Well, that's it from Tom Fitton, folks. Direct and to the point. So Adam Shiff is far from out of the woods when it comes to denying everything he's been accused of, as far as a couple of residences to have things his way, as well as other politicians in the deep state all the time, and none for thee, us, the American people. So our conclusion for the present time, folks, is that being sneaky, hateful, disrespectful of political opponents and businessmen in Washington, D.C. is the norm, rather than the fact of matters in the federal government, and has filtered down to many now blue state governors and mayors. What else am I talking about? Well, let's show you. Among other political and world actors. Speaking of blue states like ours, folks, it's Janet Mills, Shenna Bellows, Aaron Fry, among others in Maine state government over the past 8 years of Mills' 2 terms. Are they blue-collar criminals or white-collar criminals? Are they? What about the attacks by Robert Card against the innocents, families in Lewiston? Red flag laws were never endorsed, never even discussed by politicos in the Maine legislature to get that passed, and said, oh, yellow laws are just fine enough. They cover just about everything that needs to get done. Sarah Gideon, and then part-time House Speaker Rachel Talbot Ross did nothing. Sat on their fat you-know-whats. Long before this horrendous, incomprehensible attack took place in 2023. Robert Card a victim? Or is he an instigator? A blue-collar crime? Here's a few losers, folks. Just recently having a worldwide meeting with Donald Trump. Some of it's spelled out here in an article and magazine statement by the Washington Examiner a few years ago. Putin's war on the West, his quest to dominate the world, it says below. Is he white collar or blue collar? And Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Biden, are they white collar or blue collar criminals? Hunter tries to get off scot-free thanks to Daddy. Are they? Which category do they fall into? Not that it matters too much, of course, folks. Evil breeds evil. And I'm talking about this into that. Not to mention his rest of his family. And Biden's little love child. Can't leave them out, you know. Sloppy Joe made sure that they got millions of dollars through all these illegal transfers or appropriations of monies. Blue collar or white collar crime? Last but not least, folks, very least, say that again. Last but not least on the headlines of everyday news that you see, how about all these people right here? Huh? What about the mainstream media? Or as I call them, the lamestream media. Enemies of the state, as you see. This white-collar crime or blue-collar crime? Oh, yeah. We've got a few more to show you. Remember them? PBS right up here in Maine, Maine Public Broadcasting, NPR, being defunded by our current president. Might as well throw Sports Illustrated and Sky and Telemundo. Doesn't matter the language to me if it doesn't to you, folks. Never mind Disney. Rolling Stone magazine. What the hell have they got to do with news? The Guardian, another one, another criminal. Get lost. That's where we are, folks. As we wrap up this program on the difference between white-collar and blue-collar crime on Firm, our last viewpoint, to be accurate, in our truth in journalism, one of our mottos here, aside from truth, facts, reality, and common sense, Let's run down those differences again in a final few viewpoints on the key differences of white collar and blue collar. Nature of the crime, motivation, detection and prosecution, impact on society. The nature of the crime, white collar, nonviolent, and financially motivated, with complex schemes that exploit trust and authority. Blue collar involves direct physical actions, as we've said, often resulting in immediate harm or property damage. Motivation. White collar, typically motivated by greed, power, financial gain, often planned meticulously. Blue collar, often driven by need, desperation, situational factors, making them more impulsive. The illegals. Migrants. Detection and prosecution, white collar, more challenging to detect and prosecute due to their complexity and lack of physical evidence. Where's that proverbial rug that all the dirt is swept under? Investigations often require special knowledge and can take years. Why do you think it's been so hard for Mr. Fitton and his Judicial Watch organization? He has a staff of trial lawyers, ladies and gentlemen. He's been at it almost 31 years. He deserves your respect, and you should learn more about his organization, judicialwatch.org. As far as detection and prosecution, for blue collar, generally easier to detect and prosecute as they often involve clear physical evidence and immediate witnesses. And the last one, folks, impact on society, white collar, can have widespread economic consequences, eroding public trust in institutions like universities, hospitals, and leading to significant financial losses for individuals and businesses. And blue collar, on that impact, typically has more localized effects, directly hitting victims and communities and instilling fear and disrupting public order. We've got a lot of that going on right here in central Maine, Waterville, Augusta, our state capital, especially with Muslim, one-sided, violent people at the mayor's office. Also in Lewiston, the Somali population has decided that Maine doesn't know how to run their own state, throwing caution to the wind and being violent against those who dispute and don't like their ways of life because they don't believe in the Constitution at all. White collar and blue collar crimes, folks, have significant implications for society. Different ways, though. As you can see, understanding these distinctions is crucial for developing effective prevention strategies and addressing the unique challenges posed by each type of crime. This is why those differences matter, folks, in a free and law-abiding society and republic such as ours, not make-believe theories and ideologies. As always, ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned previously, here's exactly what we need you to take advantage of right here. Contact us anytime at your convenience at fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and Declaration of Independence, all wrapped up in one nice little package here from hillsdalecollege.edu. hillsdalecollege.edu. Everyone have a pleasant day, pleasant week, wherever you may be, whatever you're doing. Pray for our country. Let's make some changes in our leadership of not only this state, but the entire country, and give complete support to our current president and his cabinet. Peace to all.